is 3 days before Rachel Reeves unveils what has been dubbed by many as a nightmare budget. Warnings are growing that millions of workers could be hit.
Yeah, well, there is this £20 billion black hole to fill. So the Chancellor is expected to rely on stealth tax hikes, including a U-turn on frozen income tax thresholds, dragging hundreds of thousands more into higher tax bands.
Well, Rachel Reeves insists the wider welfare bill must be tackled as well, but polling shows Britons would prefer public service spending cuts to tax rises.
This important interruption is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Protect your money and your identity. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code here to get ExpressVPN right now and save up to 73% on annual plans today. Right, let's get back into it.
Yes, political commentator, we've already seen her once, is Jennifer Powers. And Jennifer, the thing is that when people say that they would prefer cuts to public spending rather than paying more taxes, I think the problem is that they think they might prefer that, but actually we would prefer our potholes being sorted and our hospitals not to be so crumbling and various other things. So the problem is it's a balancing act, isn't it? You've actually got to do things to make a difference, make things better, whilst actually not trying to put too many people in a position where they can't really afford to do anything at all that's even remotely fun.
Well, they say we get the politicians we deserve. And the British electorate is notorious for wanting the state to give us everything it can whilst paying as little taxes.
Exactly.
So, you know, the rubber does hit the road, as you say, and trade-offs, trade-offs happen, and the Chancellor is going to have to make those decisions this Wednesday. I mean, she gave a phenomenal interview earlier in the week, which you probably spoke about, where she claimed that she'd been underestimated her entire life.
Mansplaining.
Yes, she also didn't like mansplaining. I thought, my goodness, no one is, I don't think anyone's underestimating her for this budget. I think we all have the most pessimistic take possible. And I'd be very surprised if it turned out to be anything other than really quite damaging for the pocketbooks of the British public.
Every time you're online, your money and your identity are at risk. Scams now make up nearly 40% of all crime in the UK. That's thousands of attacks every single day. In Britain, someone has their identity stolen every 2 minutes, leaving victims with wrecked finances and years of stress. The threat is real, and you could be next. ExpressVPN is your shield against criminals. It locks down your devices, hiding your personal information and financial details from hackers, scammers, and anyone else looking to exploit you. So whether you're checking your bank, shopping, or just browsing, ExpressVPN makes you invisible to prying eyes trying to steal your money and your identity. ExpressVPN shields your data with military-grade AES 256 encryption. That's the same standard trusted by the US government to guard classified information. This is the highest level of online security you can get. So don't wait for disaster. Secure up to 14 devices at once and get powerful password protection. Real support is available 24/7 because cybercrime never sleeps. Save up to 73% on annual plans today. Every moment you hesitate is another moment you're exposed. Protect your money and protect your identity. Get ExpressVPN right now.
Yeah, I mean, the issue is, I mean, the Conservatives say, how true it is, we don't know, but the Conservatives say they could cut £47 billion.
Any party can cut any number.
Well, apart from the fact, the problem is that the Labour government can't, can they? Because they'd never get it through.
Well, and there is the problem. I mean, to your point, the poll in I think it was the Times article this morning, it's interesting because it actually shows that on balance, all voters of all political parties prefer a bit of restraint on the public spending over ever more tax increases. Even the Greens, who are the most left-wing on economic issues. So I do wonder if we've hit that inflection point where people are conscious that the tax burden is growing ever higher and they're not seeing the results in the public services from the huge amount of tax we pay now. And so their patience is wearing thin.
You see, I just think that if you put taxes on things which you could vaguely consider a luxury and kept that higher, because I think it's the money that when you go out to work, you put your effort in and you look at people who don't go to work, who perhaps should be in work. I'm not talking about people who are off work genuinely because they're not well, but the people who, and you just think the benefits for people to not work are too big.
Well, it's all about incentives. And
Yes.
yes, we have a huge issue with the welfare budget in this country. And it's interesting because I'm sure we'll be covering the Ukraine during the show. And, you know, one of the problems with the very sad, tragic situation that Ukraine finds itself in is that Europe hasn't been able to provide the military support that it promised. And one of the main reasons it hasn't been able to do that is because of huge welfare spending across Europe, including here in the UK. And to your point, Stephen, you know, the backbenchers are the problem for that. And we see the government, you know, it was the first rebellion of this new government. There were 7 Labour MPs who voted for an amendment to the King's Speech, which would have abolished the 2-child benefit cap. And as they passed through the lobby to vote for that amendment, they got text messages saying that they were suspended from the Labour Party. So it was like very quick, very robust action by the whip saying, no, you will toe the line. Well, fast forward a year and a bit, and this is now about to become Labour Party policy because, as you say, of the power of the backbenches and the ineffectiveness of the Prime Minister and the Chancellor who don't.
This is also the ridiculous situation. And one of the headlines is, you know, we're going to reform the welfare system, and have some savings, but whilst also saying we're also going to increase the welfare system and get rid of the 2-child benefit cap.
And you know, they would have a lot more credibility if they did the two things at the same time. But, you know, they're hoping that the bond markets will believe them when they say that they will clamp down on spending further down the road. But that seems to be a really precarious position to be.
You know, we've talked about technology, and we're talking about technology a little bit later on as well. But technology, you do wonder if it wasn't better in the days when the Chancellor held up the red bag and went, here's the budget, and pretty much nobody heard about what was in the budget. There was a little bit of speculation in the papers, but in general, not very much because you couldn't.
Yes.
And was that a better way of doing it?
Well,
should we go back? I know it's difficult because, I mean, as I said, talk about cognitive leakage. It's sort of leakage out of the Palace of Westminster, isn't it, all the time?
Yes, indeed. No, it's an interesting question, and I think you're onto something because the date of this budget was much later. We've gone 13 months between budgets, which has led to speculation. And the fact that the government, as we talk endlessly, doesn't really have a plan, doesn't really have a vision of where to take the country, it means they didn't have a clear idea of what they wanted with this budget. It's almost like this. They were working at, we have to fix the black hole. We have this deficit of, so what are we going to, you know, what spending are we going to stop, or taxes are we going to put up? And so it's that sort of game they're playing as opposed to trying to get somewhere. And so, yes, they've been briefing like crazy. There have been leaks like crazy. And for some of the tax changes that they might want to do, it's actually kind of productive to know about it in advance.
Exactly.
So this talk of the wealth tax, people may be moving their wealth, it's actually killed the housing market because people are afraid of what's going to happen with the tax bands at the top. So some people are choosing to move out of the country before the budget, and we know that the very rich pay the vast majority of the tax in this country. So all sorts of unintended consequences from a chancellor who doesn't know what she wants to do.
Yeah. All right, Jennifer. For now, thank you very much indeed. And of course, we'll have full coverage here on Wednesday. And that lovely budget heads our way. Can I just say, I'm not working on Wednesday.
Was that deliberate?
And I've never been more pleased because I don't want to sit through it. I don't. I just don't. No.
Yeah.
I don't. I'd rather be sat at home. I'm not even going to. Shouldn't say this. I'm not going to watch either.
Right.
I'll watch the sum ups.
Are you not just going to do that thing that
no? Because I'd sit on the sofa and cry.
Okay. I was just going to say sometimes it's just that thing of it's over in their corner and I'll just quickly look at it and do that. Wince a bit.
I shall have a quick scan at the GB News website at the end of the day just to see the summaries.
Right.
And that will be it.
But don't forget, the rest of you can actually watch GB News. You are allowed.